Hi, team. Happy Pi Day, and welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, we talk about gearing up alts in the new 5.0 world. But first, some other game and guild news. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 185, who's geared all in 192 greens with no relics or implants, but I'm sure he's going to be just fine in this Nightmare Escape Pod. Yeah, as I always say to my ops team, some of you may die, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. So, with me as always is Seema, who keeps me alive because she's our healer. Well, sometimes when I deserve it. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
It's going really well. Yes, I keep you alive when you earn it. No. DPS are very important. And an encounter will never end if the DPS are not doing what they do best. So I appreciate the DPS, in spite of what you guys always say about me not healing you. I love the DPS. I do. Yes. Command ranks. I am personally up to command rank 122, which it feels like once I hit tier 2, it seemed to start going faster. I know it's because we're in the event and it actually is going faster, and it's mental too, because as I was getting closer and closer to 90 and 91, I was like, oh, it's never going to happen. But now that I'm sort of on the downside of that, it feels like the command levels are just rolling in. So I'm at 122, 3 digits. It makes me think that what am I aiming now for? 300.
Well,
181.
Ultimately.
To get into tier 3. Right. Okay. So that seems like, right around the corner.
It is.
So I like this.
Really
I like this pace that we're going now. It feels rewarding and it's fun.
Yeah, I agree.
And this week I've been playing basically what I like to do, which is, opsing with my ops teams. And last night I got to run as an alt with the Soldiers of Light team, which is always fun. We had a very productive night. And my character this is, one tip about gearing up that maybe we were going to touch on, I don't know, but the command packs, the ones that just have command points in that drop from the bosses, those are BOA, or Bind on Legacy, I should say. Sent them back to my Merc, and she got a bunch of... So both characters basically got command levels, ranks last night, so that was fun. So yeah. And then I've been doing planetary missions and crafting, because we had a crazy conquest week last week, because we decided to hit it, which means get in the top 10, which we did handily, thanks to, in large part, to the efforts of a handful of people. But everybody also get kicked in, so it was a good week for conquest.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I was
Really?
waiting for you to ask me. Why, thank
What
you for
about you,
asking,
Max?
Seema. This week, I
I
too
like to
have been having fun
keep you
in
on
the
your
game.
toes. Sometimes I ask, sometimes I don't.
So this weekend, Conquest did suck a lot of us in. There were a lot of people online, a lot of people in Discord all weekend, tracking where we were in the points and doing things, trading off extra materials to be making invasion forces. There were 3 people that led it with millions of points. So Spicoli, number 1, I think he had over 5 million alone out of our almost 10 or 11 million for the guild. Smoke, second, had almost 2 million, I think. And then Stavis had probably at least 1 million. And but I did quite a bit. I think I had a total of like 500,000 across a handful of characters. And a lot, but tons of people in the guild were just throwing in points. We had a new player that's only been playing for like a couple weeks, and was leveling up crafting, and then hitting personal target. So that was
Right.
really cool.
That's right. Yeah.
That's really cool stuff. So everybody was getting into it, and we just wanted to get on the board, but then a couple people were getting excited, and we finished at like 5th.
Yeah.
On the board.
We did.
We cranked it out. So that was cool. I see us on the board already this week, I believe, but this is not the crafting week. So the crafting week gets crazy because everyone can be throwing down lots and lots of points. So I think the top planets were, 50 million or 60 million for us. That just gets nuts. So right now, it's only the first day, but the top guild is only at 400K, and we're 5 with 155K. This does not happen in a crafting week. It would be already up to, millions for the top guilds.
Right, right. And the crafting weeks they're kind of spaced out so that if you're just sort of playing normally on your characters that have gathering, if you play on your characters that have gathering, it's almost like you can pull together almost enough mats to get your personal target on the next crafting week without even really trying.
Yeah.
They're far enough apart.
So that was fun. I did quite a bit of that. I also did enough CXP gathering things that, let me see, what was I last week when we broadcast? I was at 199, and now I'm at 224. So still throwing down lots of Command XP levels. And as I was saying just before the show, I think I did almost 9 this afternoon. I think I had a couple lingering weeklies that got me a bunch of points, and then we did Mandatory Fun Night tonight. That got me a bunch of points. So I got a whole bunch of levels that I didn't expect. And look, the light side is now victorious on Jedi Covenant, so I have a couple more command packs to turn in. And as you mentioned, Seema, I do really like that mechanic where as you do an operation, the Operation CXP packs that drop off of the bosses are bound to Legacy. So you can take those, and you want to do 2 things with those. You can take those and move them to the character that you'd prefer to open them on. So maybe you needed to bring a tank tonight to help out your ops team, but your DPS is your main. And that's the kind of thing that happens to me once in a while. I don't mind bringing an alt because I can just take those CXP packs and pass them over to my main. The second thing everyone should keep in mind is if you're light 5, you want to wait till the light side is victorious on your server to open them, because you get a little bit of a bonus. And if you're dark 5, you want to wait till the dark side is victorious to open them, because then you get the little, it's not a lot, I think it's like a 10% bonus or something like that. But there's more Command XP. So I bet if I open these, I'll even be up to 225. Pop, yep, 225, there I go. So every time I turn around, I got to update it. Although, last thing I'll say about it, what I was doing this week. So I'm at 225. So this is 45 ranks into Tier 3. And I had good luck in Tier 2 on set pieces. I have had bad luck in Tier 3. Not terrible. I did get 4 pieces total, but they were 2 bracers and 2 legs. And it was 2 legendary bracers. So there was legendary each time on the bracers, and then 2 sets of regular 240 legs. So that wasn't all that lucky, but that's okay. If I get a set piece and I get a 240 piece, basically, I'll keep it anyway, and I'll pull them on an enhancement and use it for a while, or use it on another character or on an alt, which we'll talk about tonight. So that was me this week. I think we can talk about some of the news that we saw too.
Yeah.
Now an Imperial News Network report.
So first up, we did see a patch that came in on Tuesday, Pi Day, March 14th. And yes, for our non-US guildmates, Pi Day is only a thing on March 14th in the US because we do our dates backwards. So 3/14 in the US. But the patch that came out today was relatively lackluster, mostly just bug fixes. So they corrected some issues and a couple uprisings they had to fix. The only thing that stood out that was not really a fix, it was this one, Seema, that I saw. They lowered the amount of dark light side points required to hit dark 1 or light 1, down from 7,500 down to 3,000. Why?
So when I read that, I don't know why, but I just consider that to be an example of the tweaking that they said they can be doing. So like they watch how things are working, and they're thinking, well, it's not taking it's taking longer for them to get to rank 1 than we thought. Let's reduce the number.
So is this, and maybe I'm even reading it wrong, is this when my character gets Dark 1, or is this when the server gets Dark 1?
Oh, I was thinking it was the server.
I was thinking it was character, and it may be server. So that's interesting.
If it's character, then I don't know. Erase everything I said.
No, but I think you might be right. I think it might be server, just to accelerate that first boost in the direction.
Right.
And that makes sense to me now. So I don't know why they would bother to do it on the character, because that doesn't make any sense. But I do know there are some servers where people are saying, even on Jedi Covenant, it's mostly Light 5 is Light Side is winning. Dark Side still does win. Dark Side won tonight while we were doing operations. It was Light Side in the beginning and Dark 5 by the end. However, you will tend to have servers that skew in one direction. So maybe this helps with that accelerating them in the other direction once they get the bonuses for not winning enough, because they do also have the accelerators. So if you hit Light 5, Light 5, Light 5, the Dark Side is going to get an accelerator if it starts losing too often. Okay, that makes sense. What else?
So there's another item coming from the dev tracker that we were talking about earlier, like what does this exactly mean? But coming in 5.2, the command boosts are going to work at all ranks. So right now, if you buy a command boost, which you can buy with command tokens, you can buy either tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, and they only work for that tier. So like I'm in tier 2, if I want to buy a boost and use it, I can only use the tier 2 boost, because the other two won't even work. So now they're just going to make it so they all work at any tier, which is going to help. So instead of coming out with like a tier 4 boost, they decided that just all the tier boosts all the boosts are going to work at every tier. So we don't know if that means there's just going to be one boost at one price, or if they're going to continue to have a cheap, less cheap, more expensive, and you can just decide you want like a 20% boost, or pay. I don't know, but yeah. So I just take this as a heads up. Command boosts are going to change in 5.2.
Yes, right. So we were debating how they will change. It's obvious that it's not a complete answer. So Seema, you're absolutely right. They didn't give the complete answer, because otherwise there's going to be something that's inconsistent. So even if they work at all ranks, then you're going to keep all the ones you have, and then have some that are cheap and some that are expensive. And why would you pay more?
Right.
Why pay more when you can not? So we'll see how that looks in 5.2. Also, we did see a note. I think we talked about this a little bit, but they clarified it in the dev tracker, I think the day after we recorded last week. So the quote says, "Just to clear up any confusion, once the CXP event has ended, we will be buffing the standard CXP rate. They won't be returning to rates that you experienced before the event, but they will be higher. Exactly how high is still TBD, and I should have that information in the coming weeks." And by that was Eric that posted that in the dev tracker. So I think we've alluded to this before. I think they may even have said it in discussion before, but it was clarified in the dev tracker this past week. We are in a big bonus event right now. That bonus will be shut off. It will end, but the rates that we go back to will be adjusted, and the amount of CXP we're getting will certainly be higher than it was before. I really like the super bonus we have right now. I bet it will still be relatively close to what it is right now, but it won't be all the way there probably. The other thing to keep in mind, and we'll have more in the next couple weeks, is the things, how the packs will work and what will come out of the pack in Tier 4 is going to be different than how the other tiers work. So look forward to hearing how that works in the future as well. So that's all the regular news. How's the guild doing, Seema? How's Alea Yacht Est on Jedi Covenant doing?
Well, first thing we want to say before anything is that SUP is looking for a tank, and that's our Wednesday night raid ops team on the imp side. So they're looking for a tank. They'll take a DPS though, because they can move some roles around in the existing team if they want, but they would prefer a tank. Also, I just want to say for Conquest this week, we're invading Tatooine on the imp side, Nar Shaddaa on the pub side. Notable stuff for the imp side are Scum and Villainy and KP Ops. And on the pub side, you could do Nar Shaddaa, the planetary missions on Nar Shaddaa. And I think there's something else that's good for Nar Shaddaa. And then on both sides, of course, PvP and GSF.
Excellent.
You must
Yeah.
be opening boxes.
I did open a box, and I was debating on this blue implant versus my 236 legendary tier 2 implants. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing a bunch of PvP out of Conquest this week, I am sure, which I already did some GSFs today because it was the bonus. However, that's only what I'll be doing. If you would also like to join our guild and contribute to Conquest and come and be parts of our rallies, or just come and hang out on our mandatory fun nights, you can find us on Jedi Covenant. Our guild info is at aie-guild.org, and you can catch any of our officers in-game, usually at /cjoinaieLFO on either the Imperial or the Republic side. We have guilds on both sides. And if you join the guild, if you look at our guild website, especially if you drop a character in, you'll see the Discord information, and that's a great place to chat and hang out with players even if you're not in game, and a great place to find officers. So come join AIE. And also, thank you very much to the chat room. We were asking everyone as we were leading into the guild tonight. Sorry, someone's challenging me to a duel here on Odessa. That's distracting me too. Too many distractions. So yeah, thank you, chat room. We were checking in with everyone as we were doing prepping the show and doing some of the show notes, asking everyone else what their favorite ways to get alts geared up in 5.0 was. They were matching a lot of things that we have to talk about, but certainly appreciate it, and appreciate the happy Pi Day wishes as well. So thanks, everyone. We will catch up with you after the show. But let's talk about gearing up our scruffy-looking alts.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
Who's scruffy looking?
Ah, classics. Are your alts scruffy-looking? Well, then you've come to the right place. Seema and Max will tell you how to gear up your alt. So last week, I had a opportunity. One of our tanks was going to be gone for our Thursday night group. So Apollos, our ops lead, said, "Hey Max, can you tank on Thursday night?" And I said, "Sure, of course I can. That sounds great." So what I did is I said, "Oh crap, I need to gear up an alt." I hadn't geared up my power tech yet. I think I might have slotted a couple things in, so I had a little bit of a head start. But I said, I think this is going to be weird. I think I started then on Tuesday, and as our ops thing was on Thursday. Is this going to be a big pain? Am I going to be way under geared? We'll get to why you don't need to worry about too much gear if you're just doing story mode ops, for example, which I think is what we ended up doing, because there's some help along the way as far as that goes, and you don't need a lot of gear. But I went through the process of trying to get as much gear as I could and get up to speed, pretty much to trying to get to 230 at least as quickly as I could, and I had very good luck. So what I wanted to do was outline what I did, what we're all doing, how to gear up alts. When you've been playing and you've got a character, see, I'm in tier 3 with my main right now. That's the only character I've really been playing though. But I've gotten a lot of things along the way that help in gearing up alts, and that's the intent. They want you to be able to gear up alts. They're going to make it better in the future as well. They keep talking about that. But it's not too tough right now. We'll go through all the ways that you can get a little bit of a head start. Things you can use, opportunities you have to gear up an alt, probably quicker than you expect if you give it a shot. So I'll give you a quick outline of the things we're talking about, and then we'll go back and forth, and Simo will show some things off that we've been doing. We will talk about stuff you get when you're just out doing things like planetary missions, things that are dropping, the gear levels that are dropping from that. We'll talk about all the things that are coming out of command packs, including the green things, the blue things, and the green things, which you should not ignore. We will talk about set bonuses. So set bonuses are a little bit of a challenge, but I'll talk about what I did, and it might take you some time, but we'll figure that out. We'll talk about augments. We'll talk about crafting, and then we'll talk about some of the other extraneous things that you need to keep an eye on. So let us kick it off, Seema. I know you do planetary missions.
Mm-hmm.
What do you get from planetary missions?
Well, like I think you might have mentioned, you do get gear dropping just off of mobs, but then there's also gear rewards, and they tend to be the most common I find at level 70 is blue 220 gear. And I've been sort of collecting that because my idea was that I was going to, 220 gear, let's put it in perspective a little bit. 220 gear is perfectly fine to wear to do just about anything right now. You can do group finder, flashpoints, and ops, especially because of bolster in that case. You can do the planetary missions and get more. It's gear that you can easily use at level 70 to get more command XP and to get more crates.
Absolutely.
So yes, I've been throwing them in my legacy cargo because my legacy storage, because I've been thinking, oh, this will be great for an alt that maybe I want to do some planetary missions or run some group finder ops, but I don't want to send my gear over for my merc, et cetera, et cetera. They can be in 220 gear and it'd be just fine. So that's my plan. I haven't actually done it yet, but it's just piling up in my inventory at the moment. But yeah, and I've actually gotten a couple of purple 228 pieces also from planetary missions.
Yeah, I don't know if those are random drops or
They were
upgrades
random
on them.
drops for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like purple beam from a mob.
So
Kind of random.
Same for me. I have I think a whole legacy bank tab, or at least 2/3 of one, that's filled with mostly blue, but also green 210s, blue 220s and green 210 pieces of armor. My idea there is, even for the alts that I'm not going to play very much, but I got to 70 because of the XP boost, this is the kind of gear that I'm going to outfit. I'm just going to drop onto that character, just so it's got a full set of 210. 210 is great gear for doing planetary missions and, even jumping into a story mode operation. You got a full set of 210? That's fine if you know how to play the character. If on my Marauder, where I looked at the bar this week and said, What is this? What are these buttons? Maybe not so good. But 210 is great starter gear, and 210 green is just fine. So I have that whole tab. I want to keep it around. I'm not vendoring that stuff as it comes along, because bind and equip, I can just give it to anybody and then just have a set that's ready to go. So that is, even those 210 greens are fine. You start getting the command packs, and you start getting I think tier 1 is 228 greens? 224 or 228?
228 green. Yeah, I think.
So that's another place you'll start to get green gear, right? That gear will... So the 228 greens and then the 230 blues and the 230 purples that you're getting out of command packs, even if you get your first couple packs on an alt, getting those green pieces of gear, don't be afraid of them. That is great starter gear for level 70 again. That 228, 230 blues, just fine. Yes, it's not a set piece, but set pieces aren't the only thing. The set bonuses are important for some characters, but for other characters, they're just a minor percentage, minor couple percent boost in some cases. So you don't have to feel like you need a full 6-piece set bonus before you can get into like story mode ops or uprisings. Certainly not. that's a great way to get your alts started. If they get any command packs because they just hit 70, maybe you finish the class story, you're up to, you got like the first 4 packs. That's a good place to start getting some of that. The other thing we can talk about here when we're talking about command packs, and you probably do this too, Seema, is, well, why don't you explain legacy smuggling? We've talked about this probably years ago.
Yes. Yes.
Once a year we come back and we talk about legacy smuggling. So this is our 2017 legacy smuggling story.
So I mentioned that I ran with the pub team last night, and I did that basically with the gear that my Merc has been working on, because I have the guts of any piece of gear that I get. I just put it inside of this one set of gear, and then I legacy smuggle it over to the other side. And what that means is I put the armory and the mods and the enhancements and the augment kit and the augment and the crystal if you need one, if it's that piece, and I put that in a shell that's bound to legacy. Then I put that in my legacy storage, or you can mail it, and then I pick it up on the other character. But it's the way the way the Command XP works now. That alt can actually pay you back in a way for doing that. So you send that gear to the alt, and it's basically all the right side gear and your bracers, because you can't send ears and implants and yeah. When I was running that up, some bracers that were an upgrade for me dropped that nobody wanted, or it wasn't an upgrade for anyone but me. So I actually got bracers that I was able to send back to my Merc. So my Merc got a little upgrade doing that. But also the Command XP packs that we were talking about earlier that drop off of each boss, I send that back to her. So she got new bracers. My main got new bracers and some Command XP. And my alt got Command XP. And my alt gets to use my main's gear. So that's how legacy smuggling works for me.
Yeah. So for this, the kind of thing you'll want to think about is what classes are your alts, and if they are, say your main is a DPS and you want to gear up an alt that's also DPS, this is a great opportunity to be keeping some of those blues and greens, or as you move up tiers, as you start getting tier 2 and tier 3 gear, keeping that tier 1 and tier 2 gear, and then legacy smuggling the mods out of that to those other alts that you want to gear up. It's an easy way. Again, we're only talking about gearing up alts here. I've got, again, in my, so mods are bound, so this is in my regular bank. I have a full bank tab full of 230, 234 armoring mods and enhancements on my Merc that I could use to gear up any DPS character in my squad, in my legacy.
Right.
But here, I just opened a tier 3 command pack, and I got this green 238, moddable, but a green 238 piece of gear. I do need to look at it twice and ask that question. And do I want to gear up an alt? Because here, I can just drop these 238 mods into a piece and have my Marauder, who just hit 70, have 238 chest piece.
Right.
That's entirely viable and will work just fine. Remember, there's no stats that are specific to, and in fact, as long as there's no accuracy on it, this would work just fine for a healer as well.
Yeah.
So think about that. Think about that as you're opening packs on your main, and you might want to keep some of those pieces around and legacy smuggle them around, and you can use that for an alt. I guess the last point on legacy smuggling to make is, I will. I think my commando isn't yet 70. I think this week, because I might use it next Tuesday, get my commando to level 70, and then I'm just going to take my full gear set, which I always put in legacy gear off my mercenary,
Right.
send it to my commando, and as soon as my commando hits level 70, he's wearing tier 2, tier 3 full set with set bonuses.
Yeah. Right.
That's
And
not really what we're talking about, but that is gearing up.
I mean, I will say that I did pick my alt for that reason. Like, I have on the pub side, I have a scoundrel and this trooper, And so I decided to go with the trooper because she could use my Merc's gear, basically.
Exactly. And that's how I'm doing my next two characters, which are my Vanguard and my Power Tech. So I'm gearing both of them up at the same time because it's only one set of gear between them. This does leave out, and you do need to think about, or you will have a little bit more of a challenge with earpiece implants and relics. And maybe a weapon. The weapons can be a pain because maybe, like between my Power Tech and my Vanguard, I can share the shield generator. It's a pain, and I will not share their main hand weapon because it's a blaster rifle for my Vanguard and it's a blaster pistol for my Power Tech,
Right.
and I don't want to be like pulling mods out every night when I want to try to change that gear around.
No, I have the same issue between my Merc and my trooper because the trooper is, yeah, a cannon, and
Assault
the
cannon,
Merc
yeah.
is two pistols. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about crafting when we get to it, but that is an easy way to get some decent weapons right away.
All right, so let's talk about that. So implants, earpieces, relics, and then maybe a barrel, or maybe, fill in a couple gaps here and there. Crafting. So I looked up. Have you done much of the crafting yet for any of this gear?
Not a lot, but early on, I got a schematic, an arms tech schematic for an assault cannon. It's not moddable, but I made it because it was like 230. So it's that's what my commando uses right now until something better comes along. That's what I meant by it's a really easy entry point because, yeah, it's not moddable, but it works for the meantime.
Right. And they're relatively cheap. The materials are relatively cheap. You need, I think for most of those, it's like 2 refined isotope stabilizers for any of the pieces. So this is like for the 230 gear. So I looked up 230 chest piece. It was 2 refined isotope stabilizers and then a couple, regular crew mission purple and green materials. Isotope stabilizers today on Jedi Covenant we're going for 100K each. So 200K in the major mat, and then another tens of K for the other mats. 250K to get a 230 piece of gear crafted. That's really not bad. Not bad considering we're going to talk about augments in a second, and augment you feel like is a throwaway, but those are expensive.
But yeah, if you have a 230 weapon, that'll definitely carry you along in ops until you get to a boss that's dropping weapons.
Right. Absolutely. And there's no set bonus on a weapon, so a 230 weapon is a 230 weapon. So do it until you get up to 234. You get your 234 main hand to drop. Then 230 is great. And you can go up higher. You can get crafted. In fact, I bought, because when I started out, because I was PvPing and I wanted the damage, I bought, it cost me like 1.5 million or something, which was relatively inexpensive at the time, a 240 barrel. So my main hand on my Merc is a 240 barrel, you can see here, and 234 on the offhand. Those are getting all crafted right now too. Those do take the more expensive materials. That's why it takes the whatever the purple material is, not just these blue isotopes. Keep in mind if you're searching for it, they they had a typo.
It's not spelled isotope.
Or maybe it's intended. I don't think it's intended, but they spelled it refined isotope, isotope stabilizer, and they never corrected it. So if you search for, which I was doing earlier today, refined ISO, and nothing's coming up, and you're thinking there's none on the market, that's not the case.
I just think it's a brand new word. It's isotope.
As Zen says in the chat room, keep in
I was just
mind
gonna mention that
the barrels can be moved back and forth. Hilts can be moved back and forth. So although you can't, if you just want to legacy smuggle and move a barrel, like I saved my extra barrels as I upgraded to 240 on my mercenary, because I can take my 234 barrel and go give it to my sniper. I can put it in a sniper rifle, I can put it in a blaster pistol, I can put a blaster rifle. Same with the hilts.
Or you can put it in your offhand blaster pistol in my case. So that is really a big change that they didn't do much of a hoo-ha about.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it was intended that we won't wake up some Tuesday morning and it's like in the patch notes, offhand barrels can no longer be put in main hand weapons.
Yep. So that's
a nice
certainly
improvement.
useful.
Yeah.
The other thing that's very useful to craft is earpiece, implants, and relics. And that's because, yes, they're never moddable. So if you make the 230 relic of serendipitous assault, that's the 230 relic of serendipitous assault. There's nothing lesser because it's crafted versus getting it dropping out of a command crate. So this is a great place to fill in these pieces, especially on an alt. So round up your isotopes and get your guild mates to craft you up some of this stuff. Or round up a bunch of credits and just go to the GTN and fill in those slots.
Couldn't be easier.
The good note from the chat room, I didn't realize relics do cost 6 isotopes, so they are a little bit more expensive. But as I said, they're quite useful, and they will last you. The other thing so a couple things that are a little bit difficult is set bonuses is number one, and that's probably going to be the biggest thing that you're going to find painful when you want set bonuses and you don't have them on a new alt, especially. If you have alts that you've played in the past and they have set bonuses, you have 192 gear with set bonuses on it, keep those set bonuses. Just keep the 192 armoring in, replace the mod and enhancement, get the stats out of it, augment it, which we'll talk about in just a second, and you're going to get almost all the way there to 230 or whatever you're going to try to do. Just keep the armoring until you replace it. You're taking a little bit of a hit on endurance and mastery, and armoring potentially, if you care about that, if you're a tank. However, that's probably a fine trade-off for the set bonuses that you'll get. However, also though, look at your set bonuses. Some classes, the 6-piece set bonus, for example, is relatively lackluster. So if it's not even that useful, drop down to the 4-piece or even the 2-piece and switch out the armorings to the non-set piece armorings until you can fill them in again in the future.
Right.
So on my PowerTech Vanguard, on the set that I pulled, I think out of my first 5 or 6 crates, I think I did pull 1 set piece, and then I just kept 192 armoring, so I had the 6 set piece bonus. So that was 5 192 pieces and 2 230 armorings then at that point, because one of them I either legacy smuggled from somewhere or got out of a crate. Let's see. What about augments? Have you augmented any of your alts yet, Seema? You've augmented your main, I'm sure.
Yes, but even on your main, that's a decision point, right? Because if you've put in a crafted ear, for instance, or relic or implant, but you think you might get a better ear soon, do you put an augment on that ear then?
Yeah.
I usually err on the side of too many augments, I think. But that's because I make them myself, so it's pretty cost effective, the kits and the augments. But if you're buying them all, one way to save money is just tell yourself, I'm going to get another earpiece soon, so
right.
I'll leave it off the earpiece. But I usually, if I'm walking into flashpoints or uprisings, I want to have my gear all augmented, or ops really. Ops less so because of the bolstering if you're doing the whole story mode thing. But uprisings, because they're new, I still feel like you kind of have to be on your toes and have all the advantages you can. I want to be augmented.
The good thing about augments, especially if you're again putting it in your moddable gear, besides the earpiece implants and relics, that kind of stuff, the main 7 and the main hand offhand, I augment immediately even on a new alt that I'm going to play. I augment it immediately because the augment will stay there. The augment will stay
Right.
there forever. So the MK, it's expensive. There's 14 slots, right? You need to buy or make an MK10 augment kit. You need to pay at the mod station to upgrade from your MK9 to MK10 kit, and then you need to buy or make the augment, and then there's no cost to slot it in the gear. It is expensive to do that times 14. But I will
Yeah.
do that right away for all of the 7 armor slots and the main hand offhand, because yeah, it'll last through. Right now, it's for the foreseeable future. It'll definitely last through tier 3. I don't think they're adding new augments for tier 4, so it's gonna last all year. I do, as Seema said, I do make the judgment call on the earpiece and implants and relics. If I think, I'm gunning for a new one, or I'm going to craft one before long, or I'm hoping to roll the dice and get one out of a command pack before long, maybe I won't do it then, because I'm cheap. I've got lots of credits. I could do it, but sometimes I'll leave it go. I was just looking at my mercenary here, and I was looking at all my my augments, and I noticed I have two that I haven't upgraded. They're 208, and I looked and I did a double check, and I said, "What the hell? What was wrong with me?" Their accuracy. So this gets to one other point I had on the list, which is
Right.
you still only need 110% accuracy for DPS, or no accuracy on a healer, or no accuracy on a tank. It's a little, and if you're only PvPing, all of that's a little bit different as well. So what I did for my stat mix for accuracy, and this is the trick that I'm doing right now, is I use the accuracy stim when I'm doing PvE, and I use the non-accuracy stim. I use the versatile stim when I'm doing PvP. So what I did was I got the polybiotic proficient stim, which is the accuracy stim. I turn it on, and then I see what my accuracy is. I pull off pieces until I'm at 110, and as I got some of those like 230 mods or upgraded, I think my earpiece and my implant had some accuracy on them. I think I took it off of some of these. That's when I got to the point where, okay, I'm at 110. Yes, I could upgrade that augment, or I could switch out a mod or try to do something else to optimize. But I'm going to be over 110 even if I switch out a mod and not be able to switch out both of these augments. So I'm going to keep it at 110, and there's no point in me upgrading those augments right now. If I can shuffle things around and I can switch out one of these augments to a crit by putting in like 240 accuracy mods on a couple other pieces where I have 234 mods right now, I may do that before long, and then that's when I'll upgrade that augment. So that's the only place where I haven't bothered to upgrade all the augments just yet, because it's over the cap. You only need 110. Anything over 110 doesn't really do much. And for healers, it's still 0 accuracy, right, Seema?
Yeah. No accuracy.
Right. So that's not a thing you got to worry about. So upgrading all your augments right away in that case for the armoring and the main hand offhand is a no-brainer. Weapon crystals, no change.
Oh, yeah, no change. Just buy one that's crit, that's a plus 41, and copy it from your collections then.
Or endurance if you're a tank. But yep.
Yeah.
So that's still fine. That's still accurate. One thing I sort of glossed over and didn't mention, as you go through the chapters, if you're leveling up by doing chapters, you are getting gear rewards as you go along in the chapters as well. So I noticed here I'm getting 194 gear at the end of each of the chapters for Knights of the Eternal Throne. As you get to the end, then you hit level 70, you'll have a full set of well, pretty close to a full set of 194 gear that you could be using as well to start
Right.
out. There's that. 194 is not terrible to start doing. Again, start doing your planetary missions and getting that 210 or 220 blue. Start doing anything and getting command crates. You will get that at the minimum as well. If you
And get some
didn't,
crafted big 230 pieces.
if you didn't level up by doing chapters, though, you may not have those, which I do a lot of my leveling in Black Talent. So I don't have that on many characters. Finally, there is the point to check out and keep an eye on your unassembled tokens. So as you start doing, well, two things. As you start doing operations and you get unassembled tokens, you'll get unassembled unassembled armor pieces that you can combine with command tokens that you've been getting on your main, and those command tokens are legacy bound. There's a cap of 3,000. I have 1730 on my main. If I then took one of my alts and ran it through some story mode operation and got an unassembled piece drop, I could immediately use that with these command tokens to turn that into a gear piece.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. The other place is if you are a PvPer, by PvPing, by doing the daily, by doing the weeklies, you are getting the unassembled components, which can be traded in for unassembled pieces, which can be combined with your command tokens, which gives you the gear. PvP is a different case than what we've been talking about so far. PvP, you can still fill in with the crafting. You can still get the gear pieces out of the command crates. But you have another opportunity to bolster your gear set as you go along, because you'll be getting those unassembled components and command tokens just by PvPing over and over and over and over again. So don't forget, though, when you're PvPing, that you can still be the unassembled components is not the only way that you're getting gear. You're also getting gear out of the command crates through crafting and through things like the 220 gear that's dropping out of planetary missions or whatever else you might have done along the way on other characters. You do have that extra piece, though, which is those unassembled components that you're going to accumulate. I'm not all that hardcore. I do PvP relatively often. I'm not all that hardcore, though, and I'm almost hitting the cap here. I'm at 885 out of 1,000 on the unassembled components on my legacy. So there's that. Have we missed anything, Seema?
I wouldn't be surprised if we had.
I would not be surprised. That is a good way to phrase that. While I can't think of anything at the moment, I'm sure we have.
Right.
And you, dear listener, please write in and tell us what we've missed. So this is your opportunity to write in the comments, Max, you are so stupid. Here are the 5 ways that you missed out. But yeah, so there's a lot of gear floating around, and I know it's if you come into it thinking about how the system feels like it works right now, it can be daunting to say it's going to gearing up alts that's going to be terrible. But think about what you're going to use those alts for. I use all my alts for uprisings, playing with friends, doing story mode operations. I use my main if I'm doing harder stuff. I'm using alts for story mode operations. I could take any of my alts now, any of them. I could take any of them, any 2 of them, and in a couple hours have them plenty geared to be doing story mode operations. So there's that, which I think is nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a lot of options.
A lot of options. So hopefully this helped anyone out who is looking for hearing about some of those options. As I said, if you have any other ideas for us, send them in, and we'll make a note of that and maybe talk about it next week. But I think for now we have brought this to a close, and maybe I'll open the rest of my 5 packs here in post show. But at this point, our EPC 185 droid is ready to head out in his crappy green gear that I'm making him go out into the world in. So, ha ha. Thanks to all of you for joining us on newoverlords.com, iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA, and find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite, because we would love to have you, and we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.